I never thought the biggest betrayal of my life would be revealed not by a person, not by an accident, but by my own damn house. Yeah, you heard that right. My smart home, the system I installed to protect the people I loved most, ended up exposing the one truth that destroyed everything I thought I knew. For years, I believed I had built the perfect life. Steady career, comfortable house in the suburbs, and a wife I trusted more than anyone. I wasn't rich, but I provided. I wasn't flashy, but I was dependable. When I bought the smart home system, it wasn't because I was paranoid. It was because I wanted us to feel safe. Cameras on every entry point, door sensors, motion detectors, the whole deal. It was my way of saying, I'll always protect us. And at first, it felt amazing. I could lock the doors from my phone, check live feeds at work, even get notifications if someone came near the house. It was like peace of mind packaged into a shiny new app. Before I dive deeper into this story, let me just pause for a second. If you're into real-life revenge stories where secrets explode in the most unexpected ways, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Trust me, this ride is only getting started. For the first couple of months, everything worked like a dream. I'd check the cameras just to reassure myself, and I'd see exactly what I expected: my wife in the kitchen or the dog sleeping in the living room. Sometimes nothing at all. Boring, safe, predictable. Exactly what I wanted. But then I started noticing something. Something small at first. A camera feed would go dark. No alert. No error message. Just off. Now glitches happen. I'm not naive. I figured the system was still new. Maybe it needed a firmware update. But then it happened again. Same day of the week. Same exact time. The cameras didn't fail. They went silent. Almost like they were being told to shut up. And that's when my stomach started to tighten. See, the system had a feature called quiet mode. It was meant for when you were home and didn't want unnecessary notifications. It shut down the cameras, disabled motion alerts, basically turned the house into blind silence. It wasn't something I used. I liked knowing the system was always running. But when I opened the logs, I saw something that made the hair on my neck stand up. Quiet mode wasn't bugging out. It was being activated manually at the exact same time, twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 1 p.m. sharp. The mode would last for exactly 3 hours. Then, like clockwork, it turned off minutes before I pulled into the driveway from work. Now tell me, does that sound like a glitch to you? I wanted to believe there was some innocent explanation. Maybe my wife had been cleaning and didn't want me getting constant motion alerts. Maybe she'd bumped something on the app by accident. Hell, maybe it really was some weird bug. But when I casually asked her about it, she didn't just brush it off. She laughed. She told me I was being paranoid, that I was playing detective with my new toys. That smile of hers, that dismissive tone, it cut deeper than she probably realized. Because deep down, I knew bugs didn't follow schedules. I knew accidents didn't happen with precision timing. And I knew my wife well enough to recognize when she was dodging the truth. But still, I bit my tongue. I smiled back, told her maybe she was right. Maybe I was being too paranoid. And inside, I felt my gut twist in ways I hadn't felt since high school fist fights. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, hearing her breathe beside me, wondering what she was hiding. Wondering what exactly happened during those quiet mode hours. I wanted to believe I was imagining things, but my instincts were screaming. Louder than my doubts to SO. The next morning, while she was in the shower, I took action. I grabbed a small hidden camera I had lying around from before the smart home upgrade. It was tiny, motion activated, easy to conceal, and I placed it in a spot no one would ever think to check. Unlike the smart system, this one wasn't connected to any app. No logs, no alerts, no way to tamper with it unless you physically found it. If she was telling the truth, I'd feel guilty. I'd be the paranoid husband who doubted his wife for nothing. But if she wasn't, if my instincts were right, then this hidden camera was about to become the most important thing I'd ever set up in my entire life. And deep down, I think, I already knew which way this was going to go. The first time I saw those logs, I tried to convince myself I was overreacting. I told myself, you're stressed from work, you're just obsessing because you spent all this money on the system, you're making problems where there aren't any. But the more I looked, the less I could deny it. These weren't random errors. This wasn't some firmware glitch. Someone was deliberately silencing my house. And the only other person with access was my wife, Tuesdays, Thursdays, always at 1 p.m., and always for 3 hours, like it was scheduled into a calendar. If it were random, I could have brushed it off. But when things happen with surgical precision, that's not random, that's intentional. I couldn't stop thinking about it. So one evening while she was cooking dinner, I casually brought it up. I said, "Hey, the cameras keep shutting off in the middle of the day. You notice anything weird with the app?" She barely looked up from the cutting board, shrugged, and said, "Probably just a bug. You mess with those things more than me. Maybe you're overthinking it." Overthinking it. That was her answer. Then she laughed, like I was a kid who'd gotten too attached to a new toy. And the way she said it, with that dismissive smile, felt like someone sticking a knife under my ribs. Not because of the words themselves, but because I recognized the tone. That's the tone she used when she wanted to shut me down without answering the question. And maybe I could have let it go, if not for what happened next. Later that night, I checked the logs again, just to see if I was really imagining things. Not only was quiet mode on schedule for the next week, but I noticed something else. The activation wasn't happening from the app. It was happening directly from the control panel inside the house, which meant it wasn't a remote glitch. Someone was in the house, pressing that button at the exact moment I wasn't there. That realization sent a chill down my spine. Because if it wasn't her, then who the hell was in my home while I was at work? For the next few days, I obsessed. I couldn't focus at my job. I'd sit in meetings nodding along while my brain screamed, "What's happening at home right now?" I'd rush back after work, heart racing as I unlocked the door, half expecting to find something or someone out of place. But the house always looked normal. My wife always smiled, asked about my day, made small talk as if nothing had changed. And I played along, forcing smiles, forcing normalcy, while every instinct in me was on fire. The hidden camera I had planted was my lifeline. I knew it would eventually give me the truth, one way or another. But waiting for that truth was torture. Every time Tuesday or Thursday rolled around, I'd check the smart home app at work, watch the cameras go dark like clockwork, and feel my chest tighten. 3 hours of silence. 3 hours where anything could be happening in my house. And the worst part? She knew exactly when I'd be gone. My schedule never changed. I left at 8 a.m., home at 4:30 p.m. She could have set her watch by me. And apparently, someone had It's a strange kind of paranoia, knowing something's wrong but not being able to prove it yet. On the outside, I was the same husband. But inside, I felt like I was living with a stranger. I studied her every move. The way she avoided eye contact when I brought up the cameras. The way she was suddenly more tired in the evenings, going to bed earlier. The way she started locking her phone whenever I walked by. It all added up. And I hated myself for seeing the pieces but not confronting them. Because the truth is, I was scared. Scared of being wrong, yes, but more scared of being right. So I waited. I played the role of the clueless husband, all while the logs piled up and my gut screamed louder each day. I knew the hidden camera was recording. I knew, sooner or later, it would show me exactly what was happening during those hours of silence. And deep down, I wasn't sure I was ready to see it. By the time the next Tuesday rolled around, I was a wreck. I couldn't focus on anything. But that damn quiet mode schedule. I sat at work staring at my computer screen, pretending to type, while my brain kept circling back to the same question. What's happening at my house right now? Every second felt like an hour. When I finally got home that evening, I walked through the front door and found my wife in the living room, scrolling through her phone. She looked up and smiled like nothing in the world was wrong. "Hey, how was work?" she asked, her voice light, casual, like we hadn't just spent 3 hours on opposite sides of a dark secret, and I smiled back. I forced it. I said the usual, "Busy, same as always," and kissed her on the cheek. But inside, my chest was burning that I wanted so badly to grab her right then and ask, "Who's in my house when I'm gone?" But instead, I swallowed it down. If I pushed too soon, she'd just deny it. And worse, she might realize I was onto her and cover her tracks better. No, I needed proof. Undeniable, in-your-face proof. That night, after she went to bed, I sat alone in my office with the blinds closed and my heart hammering in my chest. I pulled up the footage from the hidden camera. My hand shook as I clicked play. At first, nothing. Just silence, the kind that makes your skin crawl. Then, at 1:05 p.m., the front door opened. My wife stepped into view. And right behind her, a man. He wasn't anyone I recognized. Not a friend, not family, not a neighbor. He walked in like he'd been there 100 times before. She smiled at him in a way I hadn't seen in years. Warm, excited, almost glowing. I froze the video right there. My stomach turned to ice. I sat staring at the screen, replaying that smile over and over again. It was a smile she didn't give me anymore. Every instinct in me screamed to confront her, to storm into the bedroom and demand answers. But I forced myself to stay calm. If I blew up now, it would just be my word against hers. She'd cry, lie, spin it all around. I needed more. So I let the video play. For the next 2 hours, the camera captured every movement. The man's backpack dropped by the door. The two of them moving through the house, laughing, close, far too close. My house, my kitchen, my living room, places I had built, paid for, trusted, all being used as a stage for their secret that I stopped watching before it got worse. I couldn't stomach it. My hands clenched into fists so tight my nails dug into my palms. But I forced myself to breathe, to think. This wasn't the time to explode. This was the time to plan. When she came down the stairs the next morning, I acted like nothing had happened. I asked if she wanted coffee, kissed her on the forehead, told her to have a good day. And the whole time, I looked at her like a stranger, wearing my wife's face. Inside, something shifted in me that morning. My heart wasn't just broken, it was cold. I wasn't the clueless husband anymore. I was the hunter, and she was prey in her own game. I promised myself one thing. I would gather every piece of evidence I could. No denials. No lies. No, you misunderstood. When the truth came out, it would hit like a freight train, and she would never see it coming. By the time Thursday came around, I wasn't the same man anymore. Something inside me had snapped. My trust, my patience, my blind faith, they were gone, replaced by something sharper, colder. I wasn't her husband anymore, not in the way she thought. I was her shadow, her quiet judge, and I was building the case that would bury her lies. I kept up the act during the week. At breakfast, I smiled and asked if she wanted toast. At night, I kissed her goodnight like nothing was wrong. But every second I was around her, I felt like I was standing next to a stranger wearing my wife's skin. The hardest part was pretending to care, pretending I hadn't already seen the footage burned into my brain. And the footage kept coming. That Thursday, right on schedule, quiet mode kicked in again. I didn't even bother looking at the smart home app anymore. I knew it would be blank. Instead, I waited until evening, until the house was silent and she was asleep upstairs, before opening the hidden camera's feed. The door opened at 1:02 p.m. Just like clockwork. The same man stepped in, carrying that same black backpack. She greeted him the same way, smiling, warm, a version of herself she never gave me anymore. They moved through my home like it belonged to them. My couch, my kitchen table, even the hallway I walked through every morning. I clenched my teeth until my jaw ached, watching them laugh together. Watching her place a hand on his arm like it was natural. My hands hovered over the keyboard, itching to shut the video off. But I didn't. I couldn't. I forced myself to keep recording, to save every damn second, because now it wasn't about my heartbreak anymore. It was about strategy. See, she thought she was clever. She thought she could use the very system I bought to cover her tracks, to turn my own house against me. But what she didn't know, what she couldn't even imagine, was that I was already one step ahead. She'd built her whole little secret life around this schedule, around those quiet mode hours, thinking she was invisible. But I had already lifted the curtain. Still, I knew I needed more than just footage. I needed patterns, consistency, evidence so solid no one could question it. And over the next few weeks, that's exactly what I built. Tuesday, Thursday, Tuesday, Thursday. Always the same. Always the same car parked 2 streets over. Always the same black backpack by the door. Always the same 3-hour window of silence. Meanwhile, in the evenings, she became more affectionate with me. Almost too affectionate. She'd hug me tighter when I got home, text me at work about dinner plans, laugh at jokes that weren't funny. It was like she was trying to sell me on the lie, overcompensating for the guilt that was eating her alive. And the more she smiled, the more I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I stayed silent, patient, because I had already decided I wasn't going to confront her behind closed doors. That would give her the chance to spin the story, to cry her way out, to make me the villain. For snooping. No, if this was going to end, It was going to end in a way that she could never recover from. And as I watched her tuck herself into bed that night, pretending to be the faithful wife, I swore to myself, when the moment came, it would be public, loud, undeniable. She thought she was playing me, but I was already setting the stage for her downfall. The following weeks were pure hell. Every Tuesday and Thursday, like clockwork, my phone would show me silence. The smart home app, once my pride and joy, now felt like a mocking accomplice. At 1 p.m., the cameras went dead. At 4 p.m., they came back to life. And in between, my hidden camera captured the nightmare I lived through on repeat. The man always arrived the same way. Parked his black sedan 2 streets over. Walked casually up the driveway, like it was the most natural thing in the world. My wife greeted him at the door with that smile, the one that made me sick to my stomach every time I saw it. They moved around the house like it belonged to them. Sometimes in the kitchen, sometimes on the couch. Always laughing, always too close. The hardest part wasn't the betrayal itself. It was the routine of it, the predictability, the fact that she had carved out entire chunks of our life, scheduled into my absence, and dedicated them to someone else. It wasn't a one-time mistake, a slip, a moment of weakness. This was an affair with structure, with planning, with intention that I'd sit at work staring at my phone, watching the log show quiet mode activating, and feel like my chest was collapsing. Everyone around me thought I was just tired. They had no idea I was silently suffocating. But no matter how much it hurt, I refused to stop watching. I cataloged every detail, every date, every timestamp, every laugh they shared. I copied the footage, backed it up in multiple places, USB drives, cloud storage, even an old hard drive I hadn't used in years. If she ever suspected I knew, if she ever tried to delete something, it wouldn't matter. I had it all, and still, she acted like nothing was wrong. Every evening, she sat across from me at dinner, asking about my day, talking about grocery lists, planning the weekend. Sometimes she even texted me in the middle of the day, while the cameras were off, saying she missed me, saying she loved me. I'd stare at those messages while watching the hidden camera feed of her with him, and my stomach would churn. But I stayed silent. I smiled. I played the fool, because I understood something now. Anger would get me nothing. Patience would get me everything. The more I watched, the more I realized how bold she had become. She didn't just host him when I was gone. She had changed the system password, trying to lock me out of my own security setup. That, more than anything, told me she wasn't just slipping up. She was actively covering her tracks. She thought she was smarter than me. She thought she had it all figured out, but she had no idea that I'd already seen behind the curtain. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd bought the smart home to protect us from outsiders. But in the end, the real danger had been inside the house all along. And the very system she used to hide her betrayal had become the weapon I would use to expose her. Every night, as she drifted off to sleep next to me, I stared at the ceiling and repeated the same promise to myself. Don't rush. Don't explode. Collect everything. When the time comes, it won't just be an argument. It'll be a reckoning. She thought she was living a double life. What she didn't realize was that I had already started writing the ending to her story. Be why now? I had memorized the rhythm of their little affair. Tuesdays and Thursdays, 1 p.m. Sharp. Black sedan parked 2 streets over. The man always carried that same black backpack, like some twisted calling card. 3 hours later, he slipped out, and the house reset itself back to normal. Quiet mode off. Cameras back online. All perfectly timed for me to walk in the door at 4:30, clueless husband returning from work. But I wasn't clueless anymore that I started keeping a journal. Dates, times, details. What she was wearing, how long he stayed, even the weather outside. It wasn't just about catching her. It was about building a timeline, constructing a case so airtight that even if she tried to talk her way out, the facts would crush her. The hidden camera footage piled up, filling hard drives with hours of betrayal. I hated myself for watching, but I couldn't look away. Every laugh they shared, every touch, every second of comfort they stole in my home, it fueled me. Not just with anger, but with determination. If she thought she could erase me from her life while still living under my roof, she was dead wrong. At the same time, I started noticing the changes in her behavior. Subtle at first, then impossible to ignore. She was suddenly busy when I suggested lunch dates. She picked up new clothes, nicer ones, things she didn't wear around me. She started taking longer showers in the evenings, humming to herself like a teenager with a crush. And the most damning detail? She locked her phone. Always. Screen turned away from me, notifications hidden, passcode changed. If I so much as glanced in her direction when she was texting, she'd tilt the screen like she was shielding state. Secrets that IT was almost insulting. She didn't even bother trying to hide the changes anymore. Not really. Because she thought I was blind. She thought her little system bug story had worked. She thought I was just a distracted husband too busy with work to notice. But while she was busy underestimating me, I was turning into something else. I wasn't just her husband anymore. I was the guy quietly cataloging her downfall.at work. While my coworkers chatted about sports or weekend plans, I sat silently, adding notes to my journal. While she thought I was scrolling my phone at night, I was transferring videos to encrypted folders. Every smile I gave her was just another mask, another layer of the trap I was setting. The more evidence I collected, the calmer I became. Strange, right? You'd think catching your wife cheating in your own home would make you lose your mind. But the opposite happened. I went cold, focused, methodical, because I knew something she didn't. Affairs thrive in secrecy, in the shadows. But once the light hits them, they collapse. And when I finally flipped the switch, when I finally let the light in, her perfect little routine would blow up in her face that I wasn't going to confront her in whispers. I wasn't going to give her a chance to spin the narrative. No, when I finally showed her the truth, it would be loud, public, and irreversible. And every Tuesday and Thursday that passed only added more fuel to the fire I was building. She thought she was writing her love story, but I was the one holding the pen. The breaking point came one Wednesday afternoon, completely out of schedule. I opened the smart home app on my phone, like I always did, just to double-check the logs. But this time, instead of seeing my normal dashboard, I was greeted with a login screen. My password, the one I had used since I installed the system, wasn't working anymore.at first. I thought I mistyped. Tried again. Wrong. I reset it. Still wrong. And then it hit me. She had changed it. She had actually locked me out of my own system. I sat there staring at the screen, my pulse pounding in my ears. The audacity of it. Not only was she using my house as her playground, but now she had the nerve to cut me off from the very system I paid for. That was the moment my anger solidified into something colder than rage. It became strategy. What she didn't know was that I had already studied the system inside and out. I knew the backdoors, the overrides, the little technical loopholes that most people ignored. Within an hour, I was back inside, quietly, invisibly. And while she thought she had erased me, I was still there, watching that if anything, her attempt to block me only made my case stronger. Because now I had proof she wasn't just cheating, she was deliberately hiding it. She wasn't stumbling into mistakes. She was orchestrating them. The next day, I watched as she activated quiet mode manually again, this time entering the new passcode at the panel by the front door. The hidden camera caught it all, her hand typing in the numbers, her smug little glance around the room, like she'd just pulled off the perfect crime. I almost laughed. She thought she was untouchable. She thought she was clever. But really, she was just digging her own grave. Why now? The journal I kept looked less like notes and more like a dossier. Dates, times, screenshots, video stills, even copies of the system's access logs showing the new passcode entries. Every page was another nail in the coffin of her lies. And the strangest thing? The more evidence I gathered, the calmer I became. My coworkers noticed. They said I seemed quieter, more focused. They thought it was stress. They didn't know I was transforming into someone else entirely. A man with a plan. A man who was going to burn down her house of cards with one strike. That I stopped thinking about whether she loved me. I stopped asking why she was doing this, or how long it had been going on. Those questions didn't matter anymore. The only question that mattered was when I was going to end it, but I knew better than to act impulsively. If I went in guns blazing, she'd twist it, cry, beg, maybe even convince others I was crazy or controlling. No, I wasn't going to give her that. I wanted the truth to destroy her in front of witnesses, with nowhere left to hide. So I reached out to a lawyer, quietly. Discreetly, I explained what I had, what I was collecting, and what I planned to do. He didn't even hesitate. Keep going, he said. Don't confront her yet. Gather everything. When you're ready, you'll have her cornered from every angle. That conversation lit a fire under me. Because now, it wasn't just about revenge. It was about justice. About making sure she couldn't lie her way out. Couldn't take me for half of everything I'd built. Couldn't rewrite the story to make me the villain she thought she was. Playing chess. But I had already flipped the board and started writing the rules myself. The lawyer's words echoed in my head for days. Don't confront her yet. Gather everything. When you're ready, she won't have anywhere to run. It was the kind of advice I didn't want to hear because every cell in my body screamed for confrontation. But deep down, I knew he was right. So I doubled down. Every Tuesday and Thursday became another entry in my ever-growing archive. Hours of video, access logs, timestamps, screenshots. I had enough evidence to fill a damn courtroom, and I wasn't even finished yet. She thought she was being slick, changing passwords and smirking at her little tricks, but all she was really doing was handing me more ammunition. Meanwhile, I watched her routine shift in ways that almost made me laugh. She started talking more about the future, about vacations we should take someday, about house projects she wanted to start. She was overcompensating, selling the lie harder and harder, as if throwing dust in my eyes could make me forget. The black sedan parked down the street, but instead of falling for it, I was already imagining the endgame. The reveal. The moment the mask came off. And I knew one thing. I didn't want it to happen in private. No whispered accusations. No he said, she said. When this came out, it was going to come out in front of people who mattered. People she couldn't manipulate with crocodile tears. So I started planning. Step 1. Patience. I let weeks roll by without raising suspicion. I smiled, I nodded, I played along. She thought I was the same clueless husband, too busy with work to notice. Step 2. Evidence backup. I had copies stashed everywhere. USB drives hidden at the office, cloud folders under fake names, even an old laptop tucked in my car's trunk. If she tried to wipe one source, 5 more were waiting. Step 3. The setup. If I was going to blow her cover, I wanted it to hit like a bomb. Quiet confrontation would let her spin the story, but a public reveal? That would corner her. So, I thought about who needed to be there. Her parents, definitely. A couple of close family friends. People whose opinions actually mattered to her. The plan came together slowly, like a puzzle snapping into place. I told her I wanted to host a dinner. Just something small, intimate. Let's bring everyone together kind of evening. She lit up at the idea, probably thinking it was proof that I was still the gullible husband who adored her. But really, it was the invitation to her own undoing that as the day approached, I became calmer than ever. I went through the motions like a man preparing for a performance. Every smile I gave her was rehearsed. Every "I love you" was just part of the script. I wasn't her husband anymore. I was her executioner, and the dinner table was about to become her trial. She had no idea. None. She thought she was in control, that her secret was safe, that the smart home system had her back. But what she didn't realize was that the walls were already closing in. The night of the dinner, I felt like a man walking into battle. My hands were steady, my voice calm, but underneath it all, a storm was waiting. The house looked perfect, candles lit, the table set, food in the oven. Everything appeared normal, exactly the way she wanted it to be. That was the beauty of it. She had no idea this wasn't just dinner. It was her judgment day. Her parents arrived first. I greeted them warmly, hugged her mom, shook her dad's hand. We exchanged the usual small talk while my wife fluttered around, smiling and pouring drinks like the perfect hostess. A couple of close friends followed, chatting, laughing, filling the house with the kind of easy noise that usually made me feel proud. But tonight, it just felt like the stage being set. Dinner itself was almost unbearable. She sat across from me, laughing at jokes, stealing glances like everything was normal. And everyone else bought it. They saw a happy couple hosting a family meal. Only I knew the truth. Only I knew what was about to happen. Halfway through, as plates were being cleared and dessert was on the way, I decided it was time. My heart was pounding, but my face stayed calm. I picked up the remote sitting quietly beside my plate. Actually, I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Before dessert, I want to show you all something. Something important. The room went quiet. Curious eyes turned to me. My wife froze, confusion flickering across her face that I pressed a button, and the television on the wall flicked to life. The hidden camera footage filled the screen at first. It was just silence. Then, like clockwork, the front door opened. My wife walked in, and right behind her, him, the man with the black backpack. The room erupted in gasps. Her mother covered her mouth. Her father muttered a curse under his breath. Our friends exchanged shocked glances. And my wife? She went pale. Completely pale. She jumped up, rushing toward me, her voice trembling. Turn it off. What are you doing? But I didn't move. I held the remote firm. This, I said, my voice calm but cold, is what's been happening every Tuesday and Thursday while I'm at work. 3 hours. Every time. In my house. The footage kept rolling, her laughing with him, walking him through the kitchen, placing a hand on his arm. Every detail I had suffered through in silence now played out in front of an audience she couldn't control. She lunged for the remote, but I stepped back. Her father barked her name, his voice full of disgust. Her mother shook her head, tears brimming in her eyes. This is why the cameras went silent, I continued. This is why quiet mode was on schedule. This is why she changed the password. To lock me out. She thought she could outsmart me. But technology doesn't lie. People do. The silence that followed was heavier than any shouting match could ever be. My wife stood trembling, staring at the screen, her perfect little double life unraveling in front of the very people she had tried to impress. And no excuses. No lies. Just raw, undeniable truth. And for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. The dinner ended in chaos. Her mother cried. Her father stormed out, muttering curses I'd never heard him use before. Our friends left in shocked silence, too polite to say anything but too disgusted to stay. And my wife? She collapsed into a chair, pale and trembling, like her whole world had just crumbled around her. I didn't scream. I didn't argue. I didn't even look at her. The footage had said it all. Nothing I could have yelled would have carried the same weight as those images burned into everyone's minds. The next morning, I called my lawyer. Within a week, the divorce papers were filed, accompanied by a mountain of evidence no judge could ignore. Access logs, hidden camera footage, timestamps, journal entries. All of it lined up perfectly, undeniable. She tried to protest, of course. She cried, begged, even threatened. But in court, none of that mattered. The judge saw the truth. The ruling came down heavily in my favor. The house stayed mine. The assets split leaned my way. She walked out with far less than she had counted on. The man she had risked everything for? He vanished the second the story broke. Just like that, her entire secret world collapsed. And me? For the first time in months, I finally felt free that I stayed in the house. The same one she had turned into a stage for betrayal. But now, it was mine alone. The smart home system, once a weapon she used to cover her tracks, became mine again. And this time, every notification, every camera feed, every log reminded me of one thing. Technology doesn't lie. People do. It took me a long time to let the anger go. Some nights, I'd still wake up, remembering the look on her face when that footage played in front of everyone. Part of me wished I'd confronted her earlier, spared myself the pain. But another part of me, the colder, wiser part, knew I had done it exactly the right way. I didn't just catch her. I exposed her. Now, I live a quieter life. I focus on work, on friends, on myself. And strangely enough, I don't regret what happened. Because while it nearly destroyed me, it also taught me something I'll never forget. Secrets rot in the dark, but when you shine a light on them, they can't survive. So, did I do the right thing? What would you have done in my place? If you stuck with me through this story, thank you. And if you want to hear more true stories like this, revenge, betrayal, and justice served in unexpected ways, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Hit that like button if you enjoyed the story, and drop a comment below telling me what you would have done. Trust me, there are plenty more stories to come, and you won't want to miss them.